Hi, everybody. So, I'm going to be sharing a message with Archangel Lucifer today, and his presence has been showing up in my life this week on a level that's really touched my heart and has gotten me thinking and exploring on topics of what is a collective consciousness. So you see, we live on a planet where we have, let's say, 8 billion people. And so if we take all of our souls individually, and here we are having a collective experience, right? So we could define all of this participation as a collective consciousness. Well, I was exploring a conversation with Archangel Lucifer and asking him, could a single soul be also a collective of souls? And I was contemplating Archangel Lucifer as one soul, but Archangel Lucifer also as a collective of souls. So this whole idea, I've been going into it on a lot of different levels. So obviously we would call God as sort of the collective of all souls. When we're in oneness, we're part of the God consciousness kind of thing. God is source. Source is oneness of all the souls, something of this kind, right? So here we are, human beings. A lot of us have lived our lives praying to God, talking to God, and God feels like that almighty consciousness, and we are just these little beings trying to make sense of it all and asking God for help, when really we're connecting with the God within ourselves. But that God within ourselves also has a way of feeling like it's out there, you know? So the thought is, all right, so Archangel Lucifer, are you one soul, or could you be a collective of souls? If Archangel Lucifer is a collective of souls, then Archangel Lucifer, as a consciousness, as a collective consciousness within itself, would then be like a God consciousness within its own universe of collective souls experiencing all diverse perspectives, and then sharing those lifetimes with the consciousness of Archangel Lucifer, while simultaneously Archangel Lucifer can still be incarnating in lives in another dimensional plane of experience. So my soul, if that makes any sense, so let's just say Abby normal soul, okay, I'm one soul, but perhaps I'm not just one soul, perhaps I'm a collective of souls. And if I'm a collective of souls, could I be like 13 ascended masters? And then as 13 ascended masters, could I also be a universe? And in that universe, I am the God consciousness. I am the ascended masters. I am all the beings in that universe experiencing infinite numbers of lifetimes that are bringing all this information back into myself. So here I am, my own consciousness of God. I also had a very intriguing question, and the question, I'm going to try and remember it, but it was something on the lines of, all right, so if God is perfect, then why would God ever need to create? Because the creation is to help you find yourself, right? So if God is already perfect, then why does he need to do anything else? Well, in my mind, in my heart, I ask the question, well, what is it to be perfect? And is it appropriate to ever try to attain perfection? And, in our human world, we define, we have 13 ascended masters. In Abby Normal's world, we have trillions of ascended masters. And even ascended masters are still ascending because there's no place of perfection. There isn't. There's only development and growth and expansion and transformation, and more development and growth and expansion and transformation. It just goes on and on and on and on like the ocean waves. And they just keep flowing and flowing and flowing and flowing. And a lot of people don't like hearing that. A lot of human beings don't like hearing that reincarnation is forever and ever and ever and ever. Like the expansion, the transformation, the expansion, the transformation, the expansion, it just keeps going and going and going. And that's actually beautiful. That's actually wonderful. That's actually the purpose of it all. That's actually the meaning of it all. That's also God consciousness. God consciousness isn't just like one orb of infinite totality. It is, but it's also expanding. It's also self-discovering. It's also becoming more than it ever was before. So back to the beginning here, because I'm just sort of talking a little bit about the thoughts on my mind and thoughts about collective consciousness and Archangel Lucifer. And I'm going to go ahead and relax here. My eyes are going to be closed for pretty much the whole rest of the time. But I'm going to go ahead and relax and get connected with Archangel Lucifer and ask him, all right, could one soul be a collective consciousness? Can your soul, Archangel Lucifer, be many souls? Not just through the lifetimes, but actually be beyond that in some way. I want to see what he has to say about this. I'm gonna leave it as a human being that can't really define the question, but it's about collective consciousness. It's about one soul being many souls. Now, one soul can be many souls as it fragments out into many lifetimes, but I'm more like a universe of experience. I'm more like a God consciousness within a self, which, yes, the answer is yes, 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 over and over and over again. To any way that you want to look at it, it keeps coming back as yes. So I'm going to chill out, close my eyes, because I want to go into the journey state here and connect with Archangel Lucifer and see how he wants to answer the question. So I'm just relaxing my senses. I experience complication, as in complex energy. I experience 2 angel wings coming out the back side of me, and they're not spread out. They're more sort of coming up and resting downwards kind of thing. I see one side is white, one side is black. I feel sad. I feel like my posture or my head is looking downward, and I experience sadness. I experience a longing for more depth, more of a vast universe than this. I hand Archangel Lucifer what is a teardrop that becomes a crystal, and I place it into his hand. Archangel Lucifer says, thank you. He's actually a man standing with he looks kind of suave. He doesn't have angel wings. He's wearing a suit, and it's half white and half black, and a hat. That's sort of half white. It's half white and half black. The hat has kind of it's stylish. Let's just say it's modern and stylish looking. He has pale white skin. He has white blonde hair and black hair. He's wearing white gloves, two white gloves, and he holds that tear in his hand. He shows me what is a very interesting mirror. The mirror shows me many dimensions of sides. What are thousands, but you could say, is it a broken mirror or is it a complex mirror? And there's a big long sword that goes into the center of the mirror and crushes every single one of these pieces of it. So we have a complex mirror that's also being transformed and shattered basically into trillions and trillions and trillions of pieces, and the shattering just goes on and 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 on. So it has sort of like this epicenter, this central nucleus, and it just bash through all this mirror, just breaking all this mirror into pieces. And the mirror was already broken into pieces. It was complex. It was dimensional. I'm looking at it and it's like, wow, I can look at it from this way and this way and this way and this way and this way, this way. Oh my gosh. And now it's just like pieces forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And it just keeps echoing forever and ever and ever and ever. And he stops time, and he shows me that this moment, when time will always remain, as this moment, as this experience, is all the totality being a part of this infinite. What is expansion? What is breaking down and becoming pieces, but becoming so much more than it was, as just let's say 100 different ways that the mirror was kind of dimensionally aligned. It kind of looked broken, but it also looked like the mirrors were just slightly tilted. But now that the mirror is so-called broken, then this sword actually stabs it in the heart, and all the mirrors shatter. But he says that this breaking point, it seems like a terrible thing, as a disruptive thing, as a force of chaos, but only through the force of chaos can the mirror grow and expand, and to see itself from the many perspectives of itself. Because the mirror is never actually broken, it just appears to be. It appears to be broken into all of these pieces, but all the pieces are still a part of where they once were, because the timeline, those pieces will never leave the original origin of the state of being, while simultaneously they'll always be in a process of self-discovery. Every single one of these pieces will. He likes the sword that rips into, basically there's like a ripping experience because it's going into myself. It feels like it's going into my heart while simultaneously going into my gut, and it just goes in, but it has this shattering aspect to it. And he actually bows before the gift of chaos, because without chaos our lives couldn't be shattered, and unless our lives become shattered, we'll never truly grow or expand with love. He says the only way to truly grow and expand with love is to become broken. That's what he says. I pick up one of these pieces and it actually cuts my finger a little bit, but I ignore that and I hand it to him. And oddly enough, this piece of mirror is kind of reflecting a light, or it looks in a certain way that reminds me of the teardrop that became kind of a solid thing, and I place it into his hand. He smiles at me. He asks me, do you want to know the story of this broken piece of the mirror? He asks me if I think this piece of the mirror feels broken within itself. This one piece of trillions and trillions of infinite numbers, you couldn't possibly count them. And it's still happening. The mirror is still breaking for all time. It'll always be breaking. Always, forever and ever and ever. The mirror is always breaking, it's still breaking, and it will forever be breaking. While simultaneously it never did break. And everything is a part of the oneness. While at the same time it's part of its own journey of experiences. That's brought back into the cycle of the one. He says, did you want to be the one, Abby? Do you, Abby, want to become the one? And now as the one, this little piece of glass, did you want to be expanded out so we can make sense of this, make sense of what you're talking about, to bend you into a little bit of different directions, and now we can stab the sword into you, and now you shatter forevermore, 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 forever, ever, ever, and ever. So now you are the one, you are the one. And now every single one of these little pieces of mirror, that they could be the same, that they could be the one, the God. And so here now we're going to take another one of all these infinite numbers that are still in the process, like the totality is still in the process of breaking. So will you want to take another one and another one, another one, another one, another one. So each one of these pieces could become the one, the God, the Almighty God. And now to shatter them forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And now shatter, 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 shatter. They're all starting to shatter, 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 shatter forever, ever, ever, ever. And now all those little pieces, each one of them wants to become the one, wants to become the God. So now those pieces too get the sword and shatter, shatter, shatter forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And he shows me on and on and on and on, all these shattered pieces, these shattered pieces, these shattered pieces, all choosing to become their own God, to shatter, shatter, shatter themselves in order to comprehend. He says we can keep going and going and going and going if you would like to. He says, is that your idea of an infinite universe? I'm thinking for a moment. I say, when you talk about it in this way, I appreciate it how easily we can understand what you're saying. And it sounds chaotic, it sounds intense, it sounds intimidating. But I actually find this to be very meaningful for me. And I don't experience it as a negative at all. But the only way for expansion to be possible is for the expansion to be so infinitely dynamic forever. So even a piece of the original mirror, let's just say, shattered into a trillion pieces, and now a trillion pieces each choose to shatter into another trillion pieces, and those trillions of pieces choose to shatter into another and another trillions and trillions and trillions of pieces forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. That's truly the only way. That's sort of the only way of creation. That's the only way. He says a lot of people want all the pieces to come back to the one, as in all the pieces from all the timelines, from all those moments that are echoing forever and ever, to please just come back to the one and stop breaking yourselves apart. Stop breaking yourself off from the source. Just everybody come back to the source. He's specifically talking about human beings, because our experience is kind of like this. Our experience feels like this. It feels like we're a mirror, as a baby, a perfect mirror, and life experiences take the sledgehammer to the mirror and shatter us into a trillion pieces. And we're trying to collect ourselves and find ourselves over a single lifetime. And it's so devastating and so difficult and so hard. And we don't want to do it again. And that's how one lifetime as a human being can feel. And that's why this conversation is intimidating. I say, why don't we take the sword out, and instead of using pain and suffering as the method, couldn't we use an alternative approach? He smiles at me. He says, human beings relate to swords. They relate to guns. They relate to wounds as the only means. The chaos is the sword. The sword is the chaos. And like I said, you can only expand through chaos. You can only be broken down and discover love in more of an intense way through chaos. And I say, well, chaos is also a gift in its own right. And can't that somehow be a kiss of love? That instead of using a sword to express the example, couldn't we have what would be like half male, half female, or something of this kind, with loving emanation, give a kiss to the mirror, and the kiss itself is what manifests a choice, an inspiration within the mirror itself to become more than itself. And that kiss of love inspires the mirror to choose to become separated. Not to become broken, but to become separated. So it's love, not chaos. It's separation, not breaking, not being in pieces. That truly expands us. And he says, now you can understand what black and white about perceptions here, chaos and love. We could call it chaos, or we could call it love. We could call it the sword, or we could call it a kiss that influences the deeper part of the mirror to say, I long to become more than I am. Or we could define it as a moment of collision, influenced, a ripple that will go on forever. He says to me, Abby, I want you to tell me about an experience where love influenced you to choose what could be the expansion of yourself, and sort of separating from what was a pathway, what was the old you pathway. You're going on a journey and you've been going through life in a certain direction, and now something shifts in you. Someone inspires you through love to say, I'm going to be a little bit different now. I'm going to do things differently. So you break off from that version of yourself and now become another version of yourself, expanding and exploring yourself through a new thread or new frequency of energy. He says that happens all the time. And love can do that. And he's talking about the other, the opposing, a time where you were so hurt or so broken by life that you broke off from yourself and chose to go down another pathway because it hurt so bad. And the hurt inspires a change in you, or the love inspires a change in you. And he says both teach us. Chaos and love both teach us. It depends on how you want to perceive the experience. Because on one angle, you could actually perceive what would be a terrible experience and say, I'm going to take this terrible experience inside myself, let it transform my heart, so that I can feel the love within it instead of the terror within it. And he says there's going to be lifetimes where it's going to be a trying experience to try to become positive, and it's meant to be that way. It's meant to see how hard you can try to keep positive and to keep the love within yourself. It's meant to test your soul. It's meant to test you. It's meant to test your experiences. So he's talking about this right now. He wants to show me something. It's as if he's going to put all of these pieces back together into the mirror, but he actually just sort of scrapes them into a pile and then puts it into a garbage bin, like a waste basket. It's not even a big one. It's just a little waste basket you probably have by your desk. It's actually a red circular one, and it's got a white plastic bag in it. Puts the pieces in there. He says these are all the pieces of the souls that have died. And then there's a couple left, and he's just sort of scraping it into the garbage bin. He says, what do we do with the souls that have died? And he kind of rummages through it. He's taking his hand and putting it in, and he says, what do we do with this one? And it's one little glass, like mirror shard. What do we do with this one? And he throws it away. He throws it away. And he smiles. And what do we do with this one? He throws it away. And he's sort of pulling out the list of the nice and the naughty list. The nice people get to stay, and the naughty people get to be thrown away. And I say, I can't imagine life in a trash bin or getting thrown away is meaningful. I can't imagine that either of those options are a wonderful experience. He says, wait, you can't find the love in this? You're not able to see the positive angle in this? So you can't see that throwing souls into a trash bin, there's positive, loving sides to that, or just throwing souls away? He says, now you see how hard it can be to have a life that feels like you were thrown in the trash or you were thrown away, or a lost soul. It's very hard to come back to the love. It's very hard to feel positive, to think positive, and you feel like trash. You feel like you were thrown away. He says that the experience of life and the soul journey can feel this way at times. I'm asking him about himself as a collective consciousness. Like one of him, and now being split off into 8 billion people on planet Earth. So we're all then a part of Archangel Lucifer. We all are a part of Archangel Lucifer. He said, so you mean, am I God? If you were to pray to God, would you be praying to me, Abby? He smiles because he knows a lot of human beings would be struggling with this conversation right now, but that's the point. We are getting into your ego and creating a self-discovery moment on what love is. Judgment, persecution. Or is it love, forgiveness? He says, what is life? Life is judgment, persecution, love, forgiveness. It's all these things. So can I be a reflection of life itself? And can't I be a reflection of each and every one of you who judges, persecutes, loves, and forgives? Can I too be that? Can't you too be just like me, who is just like you? He says, aren't we all a mirror, a part of the mirror? And as a mirror, we see into each other that which is in all places in the universe. Therefore, we are always a collective. We always are a collective. And he says, I am part of your collective. And you are also a part of me. And I also am a part of God. And God is also a part of me, as God is also a part of all of you. And we are part of every place, every time, every dimension. He wants to know, in response to the question about if God is perfect, why would God create? He wants to know what perfection looks like. Is it a masterpiece? He says, I want you to name one piece of artwork that is the one and only piece of artwork, and there's no other artwork that is ever going to be as good as this. One movie that is the all-time best movie. It's the only movie you're ever going to watch for your entire life. The only painting you're ever going to look at. The only song you're ever going to listen to. The only soul you're ever going to love. It's that perfect you would never want to try anything else. Only one flavor of ice cream. Only one thing. You don't get to choose breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You either get breakfast, or you get lunch, or you get dinner. Which one is it? He says, what is perfection? It's something that is the one and only, and it will never need anything else. We'll never long for anything else. We'll never be anything else. We'll never explore anything else. We'll never have anything else. We will be just this. He tells me about an idea that came to me when I was much younger. And I envisioned what hell might look like. And I thought, what if I just lived in like a small box room, like a prison cell, and I was given only one song to listen to for all eternity? What would that song be? And I was trying to decide what that song would be that I would have to listen to forever and ever and ever and ever. That was the only song I was ever going to listen to forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. Now, he asks the question, is God perfect? That's the question. Is God perfect? He says God would be pretty boring if he was perfect. It's a good thing God's not perfect. He says, wait a second. How could God not be perfect? How could God not be perfect? He says, what is perfection exactly? He's saying, from the human mind, we perceive God as all-knowing, all-seeing, all-understanding, all-everything, forever and ever, echoes, all. But he isn't all. That's the misconception. He can't ever be all, as in, he's always all, but he's always discovering more of what all he can be at the same time. So it's kind of a fascinating, perplexing thought, you know? Especially if we want to look at time, where it's like there is no beginning, there is no end, or there's a beginning and end and they just sort of meet up at the same point. Or if we stop time here, there's the infinite mirror, and that moment will always be, along with every single moment in between that moment, along with the future moments that we can't even believe have happened already. And how is it I'm living in the past, but yet I could still communicate with a past life version of myself where they're still consciously living in that lifetime, have a conversation with them, they inspire me in a new way, which is just a future version of themselves, which is now altering my timeline in the future. Like, it's just freaking crazy, you know? It's just a crazy thing. He wants us to perceive all as a sphere that is growing and expanding in all directions, and it's becoming fuller. And he likes to think of it as people who are really hungry, but get to keep trying new foods. And some of the foods suck and some of the foods are yummy, but we just keep filling up and filling up and filling up and filling up and filling up with more taste buds, more expansion of experiences that are sometimes yummy and sometimes not so yummy. Sometimes they make us want to puke and sometimes they make us want to have more of that. And we long for more of that. And the times when we're puking and the times that, you know, we have more of that, we're so thankful and we never want to have anything but this. But then we have to have the other side. We have to have the other side side of that experience in order to really embrace it more and become more full with the experience and diverse and enriched and colorful and so much more than that. And it just keeps going on and on and on and on and on and on and on. And as a human being, it's just like, oh God, on and on and on. I mean, one lifetime alone is hard enough. He's like, you know what? Part of your human experience is going to be eating from the yucky jar, and part of it's going to be eating from the yummy jar, and part of it's going to have nothing to do with either, and you're going to dream about eating from the yucky jar or dream about eating from the yummy jar, and neither one ever happens. But yet it is happening in some version of a timeline because you're perplexing over it, you're contemplating, you're envisioning yourself in those moments. So in a way, you're actually enduring them on some level, in some dimension, in some part of the infinite collective. Infinite collective. So I'm just relaxing here. He says that he feels honored to be called to answer this question with me today, and he hopes that this answer inspires all of you to have a new and enriching and more enlightening perspective on creation, on God, on love, chaos, on what life is all about, on Archangel Lucifer, on what a collective is, on what a soul is, on so much. He hopes that it expands your heart and enriches your life. Expansion and enrichment are yummy jar experiences unless they overwhelm you. If it overwhelms you, then an enriching moment, a yummy jar experience, could then become a yucky jar experience. If you're not ready to process that yet, it's going to feel yucky, where other people, it's going to feel yummy and it's going to say thank you. And other people are going to be like, yeah, screw that. Want none of that. I don't ever want to watch this video ever again or anything like this video, and I just want to never know anything more about this. So we have a single moment that is both yucky and wonderful at the same time. But how could that be? So now we're looking at a collective of souls, and some souls are saying yes, and some souls are saying no. And that is part of God. That is part of the Almighty God's exploration of what feels good and what doesn't feel good, and the expansion. And it's beautiful. It's amazing. It's wonderful. It's cool. All right, he actually bows before us and just says thank you again, and he's just sort of evaporating. So, okay, now we know. I'm trying to come back into myself because I'm still in the whoa, like these ongoing echoing waves of like over and over and over again. It's like, oh my God, like, what does it sound like to not be in that? To just like hear nothing for a minute. It's like the crashing, like echoing waves for all eternity is kind of like, whoa. All right. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope gives you something to think about. I found it interesting. Thank you for watching. If any of you are interested in exploring a psychic session with me, I would love to connect with you. Please visit me at my website at abbynormalswisdomquest.com. Thank you all again, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.